member of WildGamesProductions.com and D20Radio.com.
Between the time when wargamers played with chainmail and the rise of the Wizards of the Coast, there was an age of gamers. And unto this, Gygax, destined to bear the crown jewel of TSR upon a troubled brow, to show you all how to roll for initiative.
Issue number 73 of the Roll for Initiative podcast. We are back. This is volume 2. I am DM Vince, one of your hosts, along with, let's start with DM Nick this week.
Hello, everybody.
DM Will.
What up?
And producer / DM Matt.
Hola, everyone.
So, what's been going on? A lot of things going around with this new D&D. Playtesting going on. People arguing. People throwing fists up in the air saying, F D&D. People saying, I love it. But, we got to wait and see what's going on. So, Nick, what have you been up to?
Nothing really as far as the gaming scene, at least as far as RPGs. I've been actually playing a lot more just first-person shooters this past few days. Specifically Call of Duty Black Ops.
Oh, yeah, you finally got that?
Yeah, I got it for Christmas. Love it!
You played
awesome.
The zombie game?
I'm not all too intrigued with the zombie version. It's okay. I much prefer just playing the straight-up multiplayer.
The only people obsessed with the zombie version of that game?
I don't. Yeah, because it's freaking zombies. I mean, hey, what do you want? But
they wanted patches for that, and they went and made a Red Dead Redemption version of the zombie game just because there was another version of the game. It's amazing what they did.
Yeah. I did hear that, but right now I'm just kind of getting to the point where I'm starting to get a little bit better at the game. As far as playing multiplayer, I have to admit though, as far as all the first-person shooters that I played, the storyline of the straight up game, not the multiplayer, is probably the most compelling storyline I've ever seen in a computer game.
Yes,
it is very interesting. I mean, if anybody hasn't heard, it's set in the Cold War. So this is during like the 1960s, at the height of the Cold War, and there's some very interesting things going on, very Manchurian Candidate kind of stuff. So, yeah, it's worth getting as far as first person shooter. But who knows as far as my role playing situation? Yeah, we haven't picked a game night for February. Don't know. It's all up in the air. I mean, everybody's kind of busy on the weekends, and so we'll get a date down pretty soon, I hope.
Okie doke. Matthew.
Oh, well, my weekly gaming sessions finally started back up. Now we had one session. Now we're going to be off for the next 2 weeks due to Super Bowl and other things. Yes, we found our group in Deadlands exploring a sanitarium where the patients seemed to be wandering, and the good doctor that ran it is nowhere to be found. So we've been exploring that, and we went down this dark stairwell to a bunch of what looked like cages / patient rooms, and at the end of the hallway we could hear screams, and there's a locked door, and that's where we ended it. So so we don't know what terror lurks on the other side, other than we found some mangled, bloodied bodies and whatnot in some of the rooms too. So it should be interesting. And I also had a Craigslist score too that was quite massive and glorious. 6 hardback books, 11 modules, plus the basic and expert rules for $30. So yeah, they all do have that. They've been sitting in the garage for probably 15 years smell, but they're airing out quite nicely. And the guy even gave me his entire folder of player characters, hand-drawn maps, and campaign notes.
I got a similar deal to that. Back when we first started this show, it was just me and Jason at the time.
Yeah.
Way before even Nick came along. Someone contacted me on the forums, and they're like, hey, I have all the first edition books in perfect condition. Do you want them? And I was just like, yes, I want them.
Yeah.
I'm like, how much you want from him? He goes, for free. Just give me your address. He goes, I'd rather have someone use them than sit in my basement molding away. So I'm like, maybe they must. I was thinking to myself, they must be like crappy or something. So I go, sure. I give them my address, everything. The books come. They're in pristine. They're all the orange back spine ones, but they're in pristine, perfect condition. Like they've never been cracked open.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah. All the books I got were the probably 4th or 5th printing, so they weren't orange spined outside of like the Monster Manual 2. Demigods and Deities did not have Cthulhu.
And mine didn't either.
Yeah. But, and then the modules, other than some of the pages being removed out for like the player handouts, everything's complete. Albeit I do have a few maps that were part of some cover that were actually cut out. Mm-hmm. And I got to figure out which module they go to because there's no writing or anything on it to distinguish what it is.
I do have a Deities and Demigods with the Cthulhu mythos, and I got a few years back.
Ooh.
Paid $40 for it, but
that's not a bad price.
No, because it was kind of like fair condition or good to fair condition.
Yeah,
it's obviously been used quite a bit. But you know what? I wanted it.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, so tonight, as of this recording, is the Royal Rumble.
Yes.
I know it's a topic, but just for record purposes, Matt, since you're a wrestling fellow person with me, who's your prediction for Royal Rumble winner tonight?
Randy Orton.
Randy Orton, really?
Yep.
My prediction is that I think they're going to go for a major twist, and number 30 is going to be the victor.
Yeah,
What I mean by number 30 is that everyone's going to fall out of the ring or over the ropes by some hap, and we're going to be sitting there for about 30 seconds not knowing who number 30 is, and that's going to be the winner.
Okay.
King Kong Bundy.
King Kong Bundy.
This was 19...
Jimmy Superfly Snuka.
If this was 1985, I would have agreed with both of you guys. But...
Gorilla Monsoon.
Rest in peace.
Oh, man.
Oh, and one more thing I just want to get out. The website that Die Hard Game Fan I do reviews for, we're looking for reviewers. As when this show goes up, the post will be live. But there's we're looking for both video game and tabletop reviewers, particularly people with like 3DSs or people that are willing to review iOS or Android games. We need people to review Wii games, sports games, adventure games, computer games. And
I can do the Wii.
Yeah, well, come on board because we also need someone to do Pathfinder reviews, map reviews, BattleTech, Warhammer.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, World of Darkness, CCG reviewers, and also just miscellaneous tabletop stuff. On the tabletop side of things, we get about 100 review copies a week.
Wow.
Of stuff.
What site is this?
DieHardGameFan.com.
Yeah, that's cool.
I should log in there and start doing my job, huh?
Yeah, we definitely need help because because if we get a review copy, we want to actually review it. We're not like some sites where we get sent free stuff and we will just let it sit and not do anything with it. If a publisher takes the time to give us something, we want to review it. And we do that, try to do that as best we can, but we're getting so much stuff we can't.
Wow.
Die Hard what?
Die Hard Game Fan.
Oh, Game Fan, okay.
Yeah, it's not a paying gig. Your pay, if you want to call it that, is your review copies. And we're the only, to the best of my knowledge, game review site that's registered as a not-for-profit with the IRS.
Yeah.
So people from our site have actually went on to do work with Activision, to Wizards of the Coast, and various other game companies.
So what about you, Will? How about your week in gaming?
Oh, well, thanks to Vince, but it doesn't matter. I beat him to the punch to it. I was actually, the majority of my time this week was spending playing that free Star Trek Online game.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, actually.
Do tell.
No, I'm just saying it's pretty interesting. It's free, but there's a catch to it. That there's quite a few things that you can't do until you get the subscription or whatever it is, the gold service, or what have you. But besides that, nothing really else.
I gotta say,
yeah.
I'm gonna say the game is kick A because it's the first multiplayer online game that's not like makes you grind and it's annoying grind. I mean, you grind things, but it's like fun.
Right.
It's Star Trek fun grind.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it has a interesting mission sequence where you start off with the Federation, then you go to the Klingon, then you go to the Cardassian system. It's pretty good, cool game and everything. And besides that, we did listen to this though. This is so funny because with my one Pathfinder group, we finished the Pathfinder Jade, not the Jade Regent, but the Carrion Crown one. Adventure Path series. So now we're doing first edition until the Shackles and Skulls one comes out. So in 6 hours, they think they accomplished more in 6 hours than they did in a month in a Pathfinder adventure.
Wow.
So they're going through B1 now. And I will do that in my adventure log later on today, if not first thing tomorrow and everything. I'll do that in adventure log and show you how far they progressed.
You should bring them through Little Keep on the Borderlands.
Well, it was an option. I normally run everyone through B1 first, and from there on, it's like roots of a tree. It just expands. I have an open-ended campaign, so they can go anywhere.
Cool.
Based on level, but besides that, no, just another typical weekend as usual.
Yeah, I've been playing the Star Trek Online game, and I'm not as far advanced as Will because Will's up like obsessed with the game, playing like 90 hours a day. I'm commander rank. I'm still like lieutenant rank. But anyway, I actually played in the Saturday night community game where actually this week we skipped it, but last week I was playing in it. I was running the game. I was running an RPGA module from Dragon, I think it was 105. Let me look at 105. January 86 it was. I don't have the cover because it was ripped off, but I think it's Dragon 105. I was running that module for them, and they enjoyed it. But next week, we are playing in, by the time this comes out, when do you think it'll come out, Matt? Before Saturday, hopefully?
Yeah, the previous show will actually go up tomorrow. I didn't get a chance to edit it today because, my house has been insane with a new animal being introduced and discovering we have fleas in the house. So
Finally got that owlbear, huh?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I needed to give it its revolution before bringing it in the house. It's since infested the other animals. So
Real pain in the house train.
We're gonna be playing Star Frontiers. I'm running the game next Saturday. Well, whenever this is, because there is a online con for Star Frontiers coming out.
Really?
Oh.
Yes. If you go to the OSR Gaming forums. And you go to the, I think it's Star Frontier, the magazine Star Frontiersman. I forget this. It's starfrontiersman.com. Starfrontiersman.com. I'm going to that right now. Yeah, it's called Star Frontiers Virtual Con. And the link is starfrontiers.info/con/virtual con. Mm-hmm. And it's the 30th anniversary of Star Frontiers. And they're organizing a
30 years already?
Yeah, March 9th through 11th, 2012, an online con. Wow. It's $5 to register for the weekend, and that's just to cover the cost of the patch and the shipping. Apparently, this patch that you see on the page is going to be produced into an actual patch.
Wow.
So basically, you're paying for the patch, $5 to get the patch to you, and that's it. I suggest everyone jump on this and play. Because I'm going to be there. I know a few people on OSR Gaming said they were going to be there. Like Mr. Roboto said he was going to be there. I think, who else? Some people in the Saturday Night Gaming group were going to be there. So it's going to be fun.
If you don't go there, Vince is going to come to your house and shoot you in the face with a blaster rifle.
That's right. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. And, I've been reading since I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the role-playing game.
Yeah.
I found a copy of it at Half Price Books for $1, and it was the unrevised edition.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. So it's like the original one when they had like the what do they call the psychosis things in it, when you could be like
where homosexuality was a disease.
Yeah, you could be like double homosexuality. Like you can roll being gay twice. You could be double pissed off and gay twice in the game. So it's kind of funny.
Weird.
Yeah, they wound up editing that out in the second edition revised.
Yeah, I only have the revised. So
it's just one page of psychosis stuff that was diseases in the game, and They just edited that whole entire page out when it went to revised. But it was interesting to just read that one page. That's all. I remember playing that when I was a kid. I had the original one. I don't know what I did with it.
Yeah, I have the Robotech that had all the psychoses in it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I have that, and I was playing like a one-on-one game, so I had every other character NPC in the squadron that my player was in have a psychosis.
Yeah.
Just to make things, just because I'm in the 5th grade and I thought it was amusing as hell.
Wow, yeah, that's safe.
Yeah.
The one thing I liked about those games was the randomness of the rolls. I mean, you could be anything and anything.
Oh yeah. The Palladium system is, I'll say, special. It has its strengths and it definitely has its flaws. But you can definitely make anything and really mix genres fairly well.
Sure, that's why they made Rifts.
Yes.
The coolest game nobody played.
Yeah. Okay, Redbox Games. We talked about them last show. I actually had gotten some samples from them.
Ooh.
Okay. Very good.
Nice.
The guy was very nice. He threw in a bunch of other samples into the box just to show me an idea what they were. And I have to say, I was very impressed with them. The stands came with it. Obviously, they're unpainted because I questioned.
They're unpanted? They have no pants?
They have no pants.
Wow.
Painted. And you could use pretty much the Warhammer paints to paint them, he said.
Of course.
So I suggest people pick them up. They're good quality. They're not heavy like metal figures. They're kind of... They look like about the weight of a plastic one, but they're not breakable like plastic.
Okay.
So like a mixture of maybe metal and plastic. I don't know what the mixture is. I don't know. Will, you're the mini person, so maybe you
it's
can
made of unobtainium.
Adamantium?
Yes. Mithril.
Mithril.
Anyway, so I suggest going to red-box-games.com and picking up as many miniatures from him as possible to make him rich. No, I'm kidding. Just pick up some.
Or you can always go to estate sales like I do and get the big catch of miniatures that I got on Friday.
Oh.
Shut up, Bill.
Yes.
I'm sorry?
That buy put my Craigslist purchase to shame.
I know.
No, not really. I mean, who in their right mind would spend $40 on a miniature?
I don't know, but besides me, I'm not sure. I would totally have bought that.
Yeah, it just the circumstances of all that whole issue and situation with that individual that passed on. But I just got lucky on that.
Yeah, you did.
Wow.
Good catch, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Nick, stars?
Yes, stars. We have on iTunes and one more new review. And just to remind everybody, head to iTunes, look up Roll for Initiative, and give us a review, whatever it may be. And also you can contact us at rfistaff@gmail.com.
Yeah.
But our one review here, it's from Estrelinks. Oh boy, I massacred this one. Estlinkska, I think it is. It's a very strange name, but it's 5 stars and says new gamer. So this ought to be interesting. So
okay.
I am literally brand new to Dungeons and Dragons, but found myself turned off to the idea of 4E. I'm a long-time World of Warcraft player, but having grown tired of that game, it seemed silly to go to a game that seemed to be modeled after World of Warcraft. Huh. Yes.
True.
I had planned to do 3.5, but found a group starting an AD&D campaign and thought I'd give it a go. I found this podcast, and it has been a great asset from finding what I need to get started, where to find said things I needed to get started, and just giving me a good glimpse of the game. Some of the material is clearly meant for people very familiar with D&D, but for the most part, this is a great asset for even complete D&D noobs, and definitely for someone going from a newer addition to the old school. Thanks, guys. Well, thank you very much. That was a wonderful post. I read that. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Someone completely new to D&D, and we actually kind of turned them on to first edition, which is Give ourselves a little, a little pat on the back. So
well, that's what RFI is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like that Dragon magazine that you see on the shelf.
yeah,
Well, you used to see on the shelf, and you were that kid that came into, you were that kid that came into the comic book shop and always saw it sitting there and was always like, "Yeah, I'll get it next time."
yeah.
Only pick it up and go, "Whoa!"
That's awesome.
Just like that too. Whoa!
So again, folks, if you want to give us a review, go to iTunes. Type it in the search function, and just type in whatever it is you want to let us know, good, bad, or indifferent. And we'll do our best to read them on there. And again, you could also contact us at rfistaff@gmail.com. So that's our stars review today.
I'd like to see a 5-star review that just says, "I love Nick."
I would too.
Come on, ladies.
I like pie. I like pie. That'll be our 5-star review.
Oh, okay. And we will head into table manners.
Yeah, I remember back in the day, a fella knew how to judge a fireball on the fly and how far the cleric could push the undead he turned. I tell you, with all these min-maxers and munchkins, metagame and power game, there's something missing that I'm here to learn you. Now sit down and crack your book while I commence to teach you some.
Table manners.
Okay, on today's Table Manners, we're going to talk about the Hyborian age setting and how I would utilize this or emulate this or integrate this or immerse this type of setting into a D&D campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Whew! Let me tell you always give me the tough ones, I tell you. First off, let me just tell you, Robert E. Howard was a genius. I mean, he absolutely was a brilliant genius when he came up with Conan. And, we're going to be discussing this module today. Vince, I think you picked it on Red Sonja Unconquered. But the Hyborian setting, I'm just going to be honest with you. It's not a D&D setting whatsoever. These modules, and all of them, I'm talking about CB1, CB2, the Conan ones, and Sonja, they're not the greatest things in the world. Honestly, I don't care for them. I don't like them because you just cannot integrate Conan into an AD&D setting. If I was to sit at a table and someone broke this module, I said, we're going to do Conan today. And it's just not going to be the same feel as if you're playing D&D. Let's talk about some of the differences. One, it's a low fantasy setting, plain and simple. That's the Hyborian age. I mean, it is a low fantasy setting. So if you're a big fan of Forgotten Realms, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah, that's to say the least.
If you're a fan of Greyhawk, you're going to be disappointed. Because those are not low fantasy settings. To be honest, unless y'all disagree with me, please say it. Please say it.
And not to say low fantasy, it'd be more
settings.
Low magic is probably a more apt term.
Yeah.
Right.
In some ways, it kind of reminds me of Dark Sun, but with even less magic.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
And Dark Sun's perfect. That's a perfect, analogy. But I also think that, like, if you're familiar with the Scarred Lands, which is another setting, real similar to Dark Sun. I mean, it's straight up. It's really a low fantasy, low magic world. The best description is it's gritty.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen nothing in D&D that's gritty.
No.
It has a darker edge to it.
Right, because really the heroes in Hyborian would not be considered heroes anywhere else.
Right. If anything, you could consider in the Hyborian age, with Red Sonja and Conan and the some of the other characters that surround them, you could almost put them in the anti-hero type category.
Right. And that's the key thing. You brought up a good point on Conan, Red Sonja, that one pirate, and a couple of other of the main characters on what the canon revolves around. That's basically what the whole setting revolved around was just Conan and his encounters and the other people that he would ally himself with, or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if you can get past that, if the players can get past the canon with Conan, just that one here, this is not like when you're playing like Middle-earth role-playing game where you're dealing with a whole cast of characters. I mean, good
Right.
Lord, there's thousands of people that everyone know about, and it ain't just, Gandalf and all them guys. I mean, but in the Hyborian age, it's just Conan. And if you can get past that, you'll do great. Or it's not like the Star Wars setting, Oh, where do I want to see Han Solo? How about Luke Skywalker? I want to see Princess Leia. Whatever the case may be. That's why I like the Hyborian Age, because it doesn't revolve around a whole cast of characters, main support characters like Conan
Right.
and so on. That's one thing.
Yeah, Conan, I always considered it like it's just one story out of the age of the
Exactly.
Hyborian age.
Yes.
I think if you want to like compare this, if you want to try to do something on the opposite end, which would be like doing Middle Earth with D&D, I think with Middle Earth you are really shoehorned into playing those characters from
Right.
the books. It seems like, because it's very epic in scope.
Exactly.
Hyborian Age,
Yep.
not epic at all. At least not in the good versus evil diametric. It's epic as far as like it's a very rich world to play in and to read about. But
Right.
you don't have to be Conan or have to be Red Sonja if you don't
Right.
want to. And it's still in that aspect, I guess, works.
Right. And it's good that you brought the word epic. When we talk about Hyborian Age or the Hyborian campaign setting, the only thing that's epic to me is Conan
Right.
and Red Sonja and not Thoughts of Doom. What is the other guy? I can't remember his name for the life of me.
Tothamon.
Yeah, that guy. Those guys are epic. But
Yeah.
besides that, everyone else is unepic-like.
Well, I wouldn't even say that, but it still leaves enough room to play someone else besides known characters out of the books. There's
Right.
enough room in the Hyborian Age to do that.
Right. So we discussed the characters. Now let's talk about magic. Magic is
Yeah.
it's not Vancian in that setting. Okay, magic to me, as I read the novels and you really read into it, and now I want you to understand now that I really looked into the Conan RPG from Mongoose. They did a great job on it, but magic is more like spiritual bound, more earth bound. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's not energy that comes from the mind. It's hard to explain
Yeah.
how the magic
Now,
works.
I'll cover that in the game mechanics part
Okay.
too.
Very good, very
But,
good. That's to make sure.
Yeah, there is a huge difference when you're trying to do magic and from the Vancian system that is part of AD&D compared to what is going to be in a Hyborian Age setting. And it has more to do with there's two big factors I'll talk about, and it's
Right.
the dealing with clerics and also dealing with offensive spells. But I'll talk about that in a little bit.
Awesome. Monsters. Oh man. If
Yeah.
your mindset is monsters with that AD&D mindset, you're going to be terribly disappointed with the Hyborian Age campaign setting, because what you see in the monster manual relatively does not exist in the Hyborian Age campaign set, if you understand where I'm coming from. You don't have orcs, you don't have kobolds, you just don't have those kind of things in there. So that's another
Right.
thing that if you really want to run a setting like this, get ready to understand that the majority of these monsters are either gigantic, like giant white apes, or dinosaurs, huge
Right.
serpents, and creatures of that nature. Yeah, you're going to deal with some undead, skeleton warriors, maybe some mummies. And y'all read the novels,
Zombies.
y'all read the comic book, the zombies.
Uh.
But I think Conan's, and this applies to the setting in general, is that strange things scare a lot of people.
Right.
That's the big thing about the Hyborian Age, that things like sorcery, magic, unnatural things, those are the things that player characters will have to deal with, because they're like, whoa, what is that? That is scary.
Right.
So that's the whole thing on the setting. And, another thing, monsters, not too many.
You know what, though? But you can, going on what you were talking about on monsters, if you're careful enough, you can go through the monster manuals, the Monster Manual 2, and the Fiend Folio for that matter, and actually pick out monsters that could fit in that Hyborian age. There are some monsters that will work, and I'll throw these out to you because I kind of worked with this. I was kicking around an idea of running a campaign setting on this. I think one of the key things I thought that was going to be kind of hard is like, oh my gosh, what monsters am I going to include? As far as encounters. Well, here's one that you did pick up on: dinosaurs and prehistoric creatures, for that matter, in a larger scope. You're going to see things like Stegosaurus and Triceratops.
Right.
You're going to see things like saber-toothed tigers, maybe woolly mammoths, things of that nature. So, yeah, you're going to have your prehistoric creatures. You're also going to have, giant-sized animals. You're going to have giant spiders. You're going to have giant frogs. Your huge centipedes and what have you. So those will fit. The dinosaurs and those will fit. Yep. Now you're going to get into another area where I think when you read those stories, you want monsters, if I could actually say this, probably rather Lovecraftian in nature. Robert E. Howard and H.P. Lovecraft were contemporaries. They wrote.
Exactly.
Howard was part of that Lovecraft circle of writers.
Right.
And if there's stuff that's kind of creepy and crawly and slimy and weird, it'll work. Your black puddings, your green slimes, gibbering mouther, great example of a monster that'll work in a Hyborian setting. Let's see what else would work.
There's so many.
A carrion crawler. Weird monster.
Yeah, all those will work. Yeah.
Owl bears, weird monsters.
Giant man-eating plants, and I mean, it could just go on and go on.
Sure.
Now, I noticed also when I was reading the comics, I got almost every Conan out there. I was a big collector back in the day, like the fae folk like Nereids and the sylphs that lived in the woods. But I've seen a couple of comic books where he's traveling with some people, and these women called to the guys. Mermaids is another one.
Mermaids,
so
good.
I remember a lot of those monsters and everything, and like the ones that live in the woods, those the sylphs, they were evil because they sucked the energy out of you. And I said, well, there goes that guy. So I mean, so interesting. But the Cthulhu monsters, definitely, because if you know some of the deities they use in there or whatever, the curses, they're kind of like Cthulhu related, like Yog or
actually there are some Lovecraftian gods that do exist in the Hyborian age. Dagoth is an analog for Dagon, if you're familiar with that story. But one thing I wanted to recall, so we got like prehistoric monsters, we got this weird, creepy, crawly, slimy stuff. Now, the last type of monsters, humanoids. Like you said, orcs, goblins, kobolds aren't going to work, but I think there are some that might work. I think lizardmen would.
Yeah.
Yep, lizardmen.
I think troglodytes would.
Yeah.
Yetis would work because he fought a Yeti before.
Yetis. I think maybe even gnolls might work because they're weird enough,
Okay.
So I don't know. And even then, they would be small, degenerate, primitive tribes of these creatures.
Right. Cave dwellers and all that. The primitive.
And they're very primitive. And when I was looking at for humanoids, I wanted to find something as far as human as I can. That's why I mentioned troglodytes, lizardmen, stuff like that.
Well, what were the picks? Were they just underdeveloped people?
Yeah, you could throw in your cavemen in there too. I mean, that would work, and that's why when you brought the subject, it's kind of like a mixed bag. I mean, you could do it with the monsters if you're careful. But when we get to the magic part, what I'll talk about a little bit later, it gets kind of leaves something to be desired as far as a player's concerned.
Don't forget demons.
Yes, demons, devils, absolutely. Elementals. Oh yeah,
I've seen that used a couple times. So again, there is no limitation on monsters. Well, there is a limitation, but there's still plenty of monsters out there that you can, put into a setting to make it very interesting.
So, as far as monsters are concerned, I think what we can say, if you want to try to keep with the Hyborian Age flavor and feel of the thing, prehistoric creatures, slimy, weird monsters, a select few of humanoids that are really primitive, like your troglodytes, lizardmen, and demons. And maybe some weird extraplanar. I think this is the one type of setting where maybe the Fiend Folio, a good chunk of it, is quite useful.
Yeah.
I ran a Hyborian Age campaign maybe about 5 or 6 years ago. I made it a Hyborian Ice Age type thing when I used prehistoric and troglodytes, things like the cavemen. But what I did was, remember the Diablo books that came out by Wizards of the Coast?
Yeah.
Yes.
I grabbed the demon monsters out of there.
That's
Yeah,
perfect.
that would work.
That would be a
Creepy,
good
Yes.
fit.
like two-headed demons, like blob things running around and everything.
Yeah,
It's
your
like-
your
it's
love
just fiction.
Lovecraftian type slimy demons from the other dimension almost suck your soul out of your behind.
I just used a Diablo book to mine things out of, and it worked perfectly.
There you go.
So, yeah, that's good. That's awesome. Now, one other thing I do want to cover, you did cover on the humanoid monsters, is also human foes. I think one of Conan's greatest foes was that one guy that had his arm cut off, and he put that metal thing that could shoot out a knife or whatever.
Yeah,
The guy with the helmet, the metal helmet, you remember him?
Yeah.
He's the one that got ate up by the demon after, maybe like 10 run-ins with him finally, but those two as well.
right.
But since
Lots
we're
of
talking,
heroes.
yeah. So, there's lots of, alternatives. And like I said, just have to think outside the box a little bit. But just remember, in a Hyborian Age, you don't want to use all the D&D monsters because then Hyborian suddenly becomes a D&D thing. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
Right. And
Now-
also, we got to keep in mind that no dwarves, no elves, no
Oh,
gnomes, no half-elves.
Yep. I was just going to cover that. The next thing on, races and classes.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
Races and classes.
Now, see, there are rangers, but they're kind of revised. I think they were called borderers or something. I'm just going to remember from what I was reading. Pirates, fighters, thieves, or however you want to make them.
Assassins.
Assassins.
Oh, yeah.
You can have magic users, but I think they'd be more akin to like a sorcerer. So then you got to look at that
Right.
kind of stuff. Paladins do not exist in this game,
No.
No.
Right.
but cavaliers do.
Cavaliers do, because if you're talking about the kingdom of Aquilonia,
Yeah.
they have something reminiscent of a cavalier / knight class in that world, in that kingdom. So a cavalier could exist.
Yep.
And I think you're also going to allude to the whole alignment issue, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. We can go through all that whole thing. So again, remember, this is a gritty, low fantasy campaign setting.
Low
So
magic.
what does that mean? Huh?
You keep saying low fantasy, don't you mean low magic?
Well, no, how can I say this? No, I meant by low fantasy because it's not really a fantasy setting. It's hard to explain what I mean by that, because it's there's not so much fantasy stuff in it that makes.
Yeah, outside of the creatures that inhabit the world, the animals, if you will, of the world, it's humans doing human things, and there's a few people that have some magic ability, but for the most part, it's just humans toiling in a really crappy environment.
And that's exactly what the whole point about that. That's why I call it a low fantasy setting, because when I think of a fantasy setting, and just like I believe it was that Matt said it, no elves, no dwarf, there's none of that stuff in there. There's a lot of stuff that has been removed from a campaign setting of this nature. So I don't really consider this a Greyhawk or a Forgotten Realms or even a Dark Sun or a Kingdoms of Calamar. It's just a low fantasy setting to me.
Right.
Now,
Yeah,
now
in a high fantasy setting, if you were to just walk around, you would be in awe of everything, be it the creatures, the people, the buildings, everything. If you were to walk around Hyboria, you would be like, this sucks.
This sucks.
Or, and I think when you're talking about like a low fantasy setting, I think if I could allude to the original 82 movie.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I remembered in the documentary, what John Milius was going for was he wanted to ground it as much as it was like, this is a place you could actually have gone to. in Earth's past. And I think that's why he chose those locations, like in that movie, because inevitably that's what a lot of people think about when you talk about this stuff. So, yeah, I guess and Howard did write that. There was a belief that, maybe, and I think he kind of shared this, that, maybe this could have happened. Maybe this Conan fella didn't maybe exist in this past age of the world. So, Howard kind of alluded to that in some of his stories. I don't know how much of he actually believed in it, but who knows?
Well, maybe that led up to some of his mental problems later on in life, because we all know what happened to him eventually. He did have some issues.
Yes,
but no, and that's what I meant, Vince, by low fantasy. Is it a low magic world? It certainly is. Yes, it definitely is a very low magical world, because when I play a game like this, when I hosted this and when I actually played Conan and with the mongoose, I wasn't going around looking for magical items, because to be honest, it's just like Dark Sun. They're extremely rare, if not close to being unique in nature. Same thing with books, and just some of the stuff just didn't exist really that much. So this is a very challenging setting. If you're a long-time D&D player, it's going to take some, getting used to and everything. If you really want to run this in a very successful, low fantasy, very gritty campaign where survival in a hostile world is the priority, really, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It isn't like you're going to be just like, hey, I need you to go look in a cave and go kill some monsters and grab some loot. You're going to go out there and try and get some loot because there's money in this world.
It's more about survival, exactly.
Right. That's exactly what it's survival. And just Conan just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's a barbarian, of course. When he goes into a bar, the first thing that happens is, hey, you lout, you stink, you smell, move away from my table. Starts the fight, and the whole thing starts.
Yeah.
He just happens to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, it's just awesome. But that's my take on this whole thing with, Hyborian and, a setting of this nature. And, I know that we kind of got off track because we were actually talking about Red Sonja Unconquered, which, sorry to say, is lame. I found all 3 modules lame with a capital LAME, and all those authors need a tattoo, a big capital L on their forehead.
Now tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
No, I'm just messing around. No,
well, you know what? But it's a hard thing to do with the game mechanic of AD&D, to try to take this set of this literature and try to kind of shoehorn it into a game mechanic. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
And two of the things they tried to do that emulate the books, I guess, was to add additional game mechanics to it. One of them is this fear factor thing. And I'm not talking about the show. But there's a fear factor. It's I would say, in my opinion, this is analogous to sanity in Call of Cthulhu. And that's what it really is. I guess you have a fear statistic, and it ranges from 1 to 10. And if you make a fear check, you don't run away from the horror from the abyss. If you do, then you stay and fight. So basically, it's your sanity check from Call of Cthulhu, essentially. And then you have another thing, luck. There's a luck attribute that you're given, which tries to make it more heroic. You could spend luck points in your adventure to try to maybe give you an extra attack, maybe able to bust a door down to try to get out and escape, or you can use 2 luck points to make it a little bit more however level points you want. And you can earn luck points depending on what you do in the campaign on top of your experience points.
Yeah, reminiscent of action points from later editions.
Yeah. So I guess this was their attempt to try to emulate the kind of swashbuckly feel of Red Sonja, and a larger extent the Conan books in the Hyborian Age. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you could use these, if you wanted to. I wouldn't say fear check personally. I would say sanity, and I've actually come up with my own little idea using a sanity check for in the Hyborian age. And the luck thing, well, I don't know. I think the luck is originally intended in the die rolls that you usually have to make for combat and saving throws anyway.
Yeah, and you'll notice in the module it actually says if your players created their own characters, do not use luck. Only use it for the pre-gens.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is kind of weird in that respect. So
Yeah, so again, an interesting setting. You know, you all have to take it and bear with it. Now, I did notice one thing also as I was reading these modules. I was reading CB1 and CB2 and everything, and I went online to do a little bit of research and everything. Good player hooks is reputation and glory.
yeah.
And that's why the PCs, the player characters, will be trying to gain reputation and gain glory and stuff, and they have to do certain jobs in order to maintain that reputation and glory. So it's pretty cool. It's good setting. But if anyone's really interested in getting into this kind of setting, get Mongoose Publishing, the Conan RPG.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to find a more
The
complete game
revised
out
one
there.
where they re-edit it and makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Oh, don't remind me of that because I went crazy because when that book first came out, it was a $50 book. Not even 6 to 9 months later, they released it again, a revised edition. I was so upset
they
about
said,
that.
"Oops, we're sorry."
Yeah.
And I had to pay for it. I had to pay another $50 for it. I was
Yes,
going to lose my mind.
yes, the book was edited by Timmy.
Yeah. Editing was not one of Mongoose's strong points if you just read any of their books.
Yeah.
Is that when they changed the rules, or was that just the second edition of printing of the book?
It was a revised edition. There was a lot. Oh, it was just horrible. It was a rata.
There
It
were
was
just
ooh.
glaring editing errors, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Editing and formatting of the text, from what I've read.
They made another edition of the game eventually too, so
Yeah.
that was different than the D20 rules.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, that is where you want to go if you really want to get into the setting. Really look into Mongoose Publishing, because I don't think there's anyone else out there that has come out with a better understanding of how that rule set works. And that's about it for me on this.
Okay.
Woo. Speaking about races, we talked about race, how there's no elves, there's no dwarves.
Right.
I incorporated those into my game.
You did.
I used for dwarfs. I called them smaller humans or midgets, pretty much. No, you laugh, but I did. I called them midgets and things like that. And for elves, I called them mutated humans.
Then he had Connies.
Yeah, they smell like cabbage.
Small hands smell like cabbage.
No, I called elves mutants or mutated
okay.
humans. That's all.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a quick fix to that and everything. You just get a meat cleaver and cut half their ear off, and then they look human again.
Yeah, right.
Or you could do like the one Star Trek episode, cover their head with a band. And
Oh,
Oh, I didn't mean to say also that there are monks in this game. There are bards.
Yeah.
So swashbucklers. I mean, it's just amazing how this game. The thing about it is, I don't really think there's what you would call clerics.
no, and I'll talk about that in the magic section.
Just to go. You cover
And
that.
also, unless you want me to talk about, or you can, the whole idea of alignment.
No. Please proceed and everything.
Well, when we're talking about Hyborian campaign, the idea of alignment is out the window. Hence why there's no paladins in this particular type of setting. You can have cavaliers, but no paladins. The idea of alignment, gone. Forget it. Because it's the person's motivations, personal choices, whatever they want to make. Because like we were talking about before, Conan and the rest of his ilk, they're kind of like anti-heroes. They're not exactly the most heroic guys in the world. Conan's just trying to get through in the world. So is Red Sonja. She's just trying to get through in her way in the world and try to survive and live as long enough as he or she can.
you can
So
strip
they'll
down
do-
the alignments easily.
They're what?
Strip down the alignments to good, neutral, or evil, and that's it.
You could do that. You could basically do just a 3 alignment system that was in from way back in the day. I mean,
You know what I would use? I would use the Palladium system.
Yeah.
that would even be a better fit.
Unscrupulous. I believe that would be a better fit for Hyborian Age campaign setting.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause the Palladium system, when it comes to the alignments, there's enough shades to cover the type of people that you would run in this, because you're not going to have a bunch of lawful goods able to exist in this world for very long, because their ideals would get in their way of their survival.
Right.
Now, I think you're right. I think you could either do the Palladium system, as far as alignment's concerned, or you could just do good, neutral, evil. I think that would work too.
I think good neutral evil will work fine.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us what you think, and let's head into the second part. Game mechanics.
Oh man, what the heck is that?
Stand aside, you fool! I have a spell that will work here!
What do you mean I can't hit with that? Oh, right, fine. Show it to me in the book.
Welcome to Game Mechanics.
All right, now in game mechanics, going with our Hyborian Age motif that we're going with the Red Sonja module. I think the large extent we're talking about the Conan ones too, is we talked about the monsters and how to kind of put those in a Hyborian setting, how we can use what we can from AD&D there, classes. Now we're going to talk about the magic system here and how magic works in a Hyborian Age, and what we can and cannot do. Two big factors really come to mind when we talk about how the magic works in the Hyborian Age. Going with the books and the stories that were out of the pulp magazines, magic is more ritualistic, and I can't really say it any nicer. It's a lot has to do with sacrifice, human sacrifice. So you're probably going to have that factor in with magic users and illusionists. They derive their power from maybe sacrificing people. No nice way of saying it. I mean, it is a gritty world, and we all know that, and that's part of it. Another thing is clerics. They really do not exist in the Hyborian Age. They use the term priest, and I think it was kind of used interchangeably with sorcerer a little bit, but it's a bit ambiguous in that there's no real clear distinction. So what can you and cannot do? Well, healing is going to be rather limited. Now, there's some ways around this that you can do as far as healing. You can just make a stat, and I believe it's in the adventure, where you recover a certain amount of hit points a day.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter rest or not. You just recover like a 1 hit point a day. Another thing that you could do, and I think we're going to try to make this available on the website, is I'm going to track down who we got. I found a PDF about basically doing Hyborian Age AD&D. I'm going to try to track down who it was from, because it was a free PDF. There's no big deal about it, so there's no copyright infringement. And one way around that is apparently to drink certain beverages, namely wine. Alcohol. If you drink a certain amount of wine, or if you want to expand it to like ale, beer, whatever, you can recover a hit point. So that's one way around it too. Or maybe even though it is a low fantasy, that's your potion of healing basically. So you're going to have to be. That being said, as far as healing is concerned, it's going to make combat a lot more deadly.
Now, there is another option that I didn't think about when we was talking about the clerics and healing.
Yeah.
There's no reason why shamans cannot exist in a Hyborian campaign.
Oh yeah, shamans can exist, and they do. But
And
I
they-
think
medicine
as
man.
far as clerics, as like you're going to see
yeah.
clerics of like the standard ones in AD&D, they're not really that common.
Oh,
I
they're
mean,
not-
you probably could incorporate that sort of thing, but they're going to be rare because they're not going to leave their temples all that often.
Of course not.
And I think you would almost want to go down to like a specialist type cleric route if you want to do something like that, if you want to experiment with something like that, So kind of like what happened with Greyhawk Adventures when they had the specialist clerics for the various gods. You could
Right.
probably do the same thing here with clerics as well. So also when you're talking about magic, you're going to eventually talk about magic items. What is going to be the deal with magic items in the Hyborian Age? Well, it's low magic, folks. You're not going to find a whole lot of them. If you're going to get if you're going to find a longsword +1, you're going to be that's very lucky.
Yeah.
You're very, very lucky even to get that. I mean, and in that kind of way, it's almost a breath of fresh air because you know what? Your players are going to rely on their wits and the skills or whatever they have of their character itself, besides trying to beef up on magic items.
Right.
So it's going to, I think, force your players into a position to where they're going to have to be a little bit more careful about when they get into combat, try to be a little more skillful. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have like special weapons. They might not be magical, but maybe you have a special type of like Hyrcanian bow that gives you a +1 to hit and damage. That's fine. It's just not magical. It's just a really nice, specially made bow. Just to throw an example like that out there.
I could even see someone who does have one of these rather mundane magic items in any other world actually having his own tribe or following because of it. He has this magic sword, so therefore we follow him because he has the power of the gods.
Right, exactly. That's a very good point. And when you're talking about magic items in the Hyborian Age, if you've read through the stories, you know as well as I, most magic items are actually kind of bad. They either hurt you or drive you insane, or hurt you and drive you insane, or something of that kind of nature. Magic was really, when Howard wrote his stories, was seen as something as rather decadent, very, and if anything, it was a real chancy thing to use. I mean, you were playing with powers beyond your ken. So,
well, I look at it like this, though. If Conan can run around his entire life without using magical weapons and magical armor to defeat all his foes,
why not bother
to do it?
That's right. So, and I think it can work. And in retrospect, as I saw, it's really hard to shoehorn this kind of setting into the mechanic. But if you are patient enough and work with it, it can be done. But there's a lot of caveats to all this stuff, and I think on the player side, it might not be as exciting. On a DM side, I think it'd be kind of different. It'd be it'd be a kind of a real refreshing thing where, all your player characters are running around with +3 firebrands and bags of holding and I don't know, the ring of Gax. So. I kind of like that idea that it's, magic items are themselves very rare and can be quite detrimental. So, and as far as the other things like spell casting, what I could say specifically, you're not going to find a lot of offensive spells like Fireball, Magic Missile, Lightning Bolt. Basically the big three, if you will, from magic users' repertoire. Those are not the kind of spells you're going to find in a magic user spell book in a Hyborian Age. You're going to find more things about like controlling people, like hold person. ESP, you're going to find more like monster summoning.
Yeah.
Your monster summoning spells are common.
You're summoning elementals.
Elementals, yes. Also, you could talk about things like if you want to expand this out to some of the other spells dealing with clerics, like insect swarm, but things like magic jar, curses. Oh yes. So fear spell, sleep. So those types of things that affect the mind that are more of manipulating people. Maybe some defensive spells I could see, like shield would be one that you would have. But real offensive spells, not going to see a whole lot. I just don't see that happening. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't, but I think they're going to be rather rare. So that's really my understanding with the Red Sonja adventure here on magic. And also you can have, what the limits are in magic. On the personal thoughts, like I said, I think it's kind of refreshing that the magic items are rare in this kind of setting. So your players are not going to be all too dependent on them. They're going to have to rely on the wits and the skills of their class, of their character as it is. And it's going to be a little bit more gritty in that respect. And I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find out exactly where I got the PDF from, and outlines this and a lot more about running a Hyborian campaign, and hopefully we can post it on the website. So
you must have the same one. That's the one I printed out last night.
Yeah, I think there were some really good guidelines on this.
Oh yeah, 16 pages worth.
Yeah, there really is. And at first I was really reluctant on doing something like a Hyborian campaign, but if you sit down and you're careful with it, you can make it work. You just have to hope that as a DM, your players are up to something that's going to be very different to what they're used to. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. Gentlemen, any thoughts or comments on that, on the magic stuff? No?
Well, no. I mean, I think you basically covered the whole spectrum there and everything. It is what it is. And like I said, just get ready for limitations. There's a lot of things that you just cannot do.
Right. That's true. So I guess on that note, we'll move on to our next section with creature feature.
That is not dead, which can eternal life, and with strange eons, even death may die. I welcome the unwary to the Creature Feature Theater.
Now we're going into the Creature Feature Theater, and we'll talk about a creature that reminds me a lot of the Invisible Stalker, except kind of more evil, because if you have this thing following you, you're in trouble and you've really annoyed someone. Because we will be talking about the Nika. It is an immense monster who has no solid physical form. It's appears as just like a large reddish-brown cloud with 4 appendages sticking off. And it's a summon creature who is controlled by magic users. But this is where it gets nasty. You'll only find one, which is a good thing because its armor class is -1. And did I mention it's invisible when it moves?
Yeah.
And it has a 70% magic resistance. And with each of its 4 appendages, it gets an attack, an electrical attack. So it's shooting you with electric, invisible for the most part, and it also energy drains you as well, just because it's not evil enough. It has to suck the life from you while shocking you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And also they're really fast, as in when they're invisible, 100 feet around.
Yes. Yeah.
When
10 hit dice.
Yes, 10 hit dice. So, yeah, they're great for stalking players, stalking groups. And They are just very, very nasty. And they can't be damaged by normal weapons. So you're in a low magic world.
And you can't damage the damn thing.
Yeah.
How nice.
Right. So this
is where you run?
Run. And no matter how hard you run, you're not running fast enough.
Yeah, 100 feet when invisible. Wow.
Yeah, at least when it shoots you, it has to be solid. It has to at least appear. So then it's only moving 12 or 24. But still, that's faster than you. But yeah, I mean, I've done some research, and I can't really find any reference of it anywhere else outside of the Conan universe. There's no real D&D equivalent or anything folklore, so it's strictly a Hyborian creation, and I think it really should stay there, because if it will, in a D&D world, it's not that scary because, well, actually it is. There's no way about it. Even there, I'm thinking, even with the that 70% magic resistance, they gave it a 70% magic resistance in a low magic world.
Yeah,
That's just nasty.
Isn't that just wrong?
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Just in case you have, like, a magic item, it ain't going to work.
Right, yeah. I'm going to use magic jar.
No. Sorry. No. You're just going to die. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Yes, it's just nasty. I mean, so what do you guys think on this thing?
Yeah, enough said. Nasty thing. I mean, yeah, that glaring 70% magic resistance in a low magic setting. What? Huh?
Yeah.
That just doesn't make much sense to me.
Right.
You know, it's like putting curve feelers on a tractor.
This reminds me of that energy draining monster that James T. Kirk fought in the old Star Trek scenario. I don't know what they called him again, but yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's a horrible monster.
Like, they have a picture of it in the adventure here.
Mm-hmm.
It almost looks like that negative energy material plane thing.
Oh,
the Zanya or the Zanya.
Yeah.
The heck it's called. It almost looks like it's like Big Angry Brother.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, if you look at that monster and look at the one below it, if you saw the pictures of the other one is called the Drowner. I mean, both of them have that Call of Cthulhu look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, slimy, nasty, other dimensional creatures who want to suck.
Lots of eyes, lots of tentacles.
Yeah.
Yep. Tentacles are a must.
Boy.
Yeah, the player's got a problem with this monster.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that it does bring up the question: how are you going to defeat this creature when it's immune to regular, normal weapons,
mm-hmm.
and it's got a 70% magic resistance? How are you going to defeat this thing in a low magic setting? Hello.
Very lucky and find a wish spell.
Yeah.
Like luck points.
Okay. Somehow you open a dimensional porthole, you go to the Forgotten Realms, grab a bunch of stuff, and come back and hope it works.
Oh, it's where you grab Elminster. Hey, you!
Yeah, Elminster! Mordenkainen, we need you now!
I think one of the best things to look at it when you read the description of it, remember now that this it is a summoned creature
From
and
another
it's controlled and manipulated easily by magic users or spellcasters, whatever you want to call them. So I think the best thing to do is maybe the summoner is within a protective circle,
mm-hmm.
and the players, if they can get around this thing is large. It's very big. It's like 30 feet. Yeah, 30 feet. So try and get around it and disrupt the summoner, damage his magic circle, disrupt his summoning spell or whatever, so the creature will actually, turn around and says, "You summon me, now I will eat you."
Right.
And then, or if you kill the summoner, maybe that will send the creature back to where it came from. So, something might keep it here only because the summoner's still alive. So, I mean, there's other alternatives.
Yeah.
So basically, this thing is like as big as a house.
It's huge, 30 feet, size large.
Yeah. So, and if you were out traveling and you just saw it in the distance, you just see this giant reddish-brown cloud. You'd be like, what sort of weird storm is that? And then you start seeing the lightning, the electric from the tentacles. You're like, oh, that's a bad That's not a storm. Uh-oh. Run!
It's still going to catch you at 100 feet.
Yeah.
It's like the movie The Happening, but something's actually happening.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, that was a terrible movie.
I know, that's why I had to
Was
reference.
it Marky Mark in there?
The only thing good about that movie was watching how much Mark Wahlberg's eyebrows grow shorter and shorter throughout the movie.
Dude, it's still Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I just liked it when the people were jumping off the building. That was awesome.
Oh, you know what the best version of that movie is? Watching the riff track version of that movie.
Oh, God, that must be awesome.
Oh.
Watching Mike and the former voices of the bots making fun of that movie.
That's awesome.
Anyway, let's head over into Dragon Sword.
As the secret portal yields to your efforts, you stand amazed at a vision from the most fevered dreams of avarice. Before you lies the Dragon's Horde.
Dragon's Horde.
Rar.
Yes, roar. Anyway, we have a one of the magical items that was from this module called the Belt of Markol. Basically, it's a simple, very simple belt with a horseshoe-shaped brass buckle. And I love what you can do with this belt is basically to use it, you tighten it by a notch, and you can hold or slow a person down up to 3 turns, as long as they're within 30 feet of you. And that's basically all this item does. So it's a perfect example of a low magic setting, a low fantasy setting, like Will was
And
saying.
it's weird.
Right. But it actually fits very thematic, though, because it's a very slave-driven oriented world. So you could see a slaver having this on and using it to control a slave.
But just make sure you don't have supper before you do this, because you
right.
Yeah, you don't want to be bloated.
yeah. Every time you do, if you want to do something else, you got to tighten the belt another notch, and I'll do it again. I think it's 3 times a day.
Yeah, 3 times a day.
3 times a day, perfect. One thing that confuses me about this, it says slow or hold. Is it slowing a person or is it holding a person?
Maybe it's up to the choice of the wearer.
Yeah, because they have to concentrate on the victim, so I think it's their choice.
Yeah.
You can either slow down a person or you can hold them in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Okay.
should be. Yeah, it should be. Yeah,
It's
that's
an
what it
either
is.
or type option there.
And there you go. You just found the magic item that will stop the Nika from attacking you.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah, but it says to slow a person repeatedly, they must keep tightening. It doesn't say to hold, though. Repeatedly, you have to keep tightening it.
So that's where it kind of confused me.
Well, see, if you go down further, it says that the victim is within 30 feet. The slowing effect is powerful enough to hold a person for 3 turns.
So it holds the person then.
Yeah,
doesn't
you have to be very close to it. If you're within 30 feet, it holds you.
So if I'm at 90 feet, it just slows them down?
That's what it does.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking at it right now.
So basically, as long as you could see it, you can use it.
Right.
There you go.
Okay, and I love the obviously a thin person will have more chances to use this effect.
Yeah.
I'm trying to say, fat people can't use this? I mean, come on.
But who says it has to be around your waist? What if you put it around your wrist?
Aha! And then you can use it forever.
Yeah. Or your finger. Bounce it on your
Jeez,
finger.
I would-
Put it around your neck. Oh, wait a minute. No.
Keep tightening it.
It doesn't say. It says you use 3 times a day. It doesn't say how many charges are on it, but
Let's see. The belt can be used once every 3 turns by its wearer.
oh,
The second paragraph, first line.
so you can pretty much use this all day long,
Yeah.
unless the DM puts like a charges on it or a certain amount of notches on it.
Yes,
I would
I
probably
think we hit on it though that this is the weapon in the magic item in the module to defeat that nasty creature, the Nika.
Oh, just remember now, you have to keep tightening the belt. Eventually, you can only tighten the belt so far until you can't tighten no more. So that's when you have to stop using it.
Right.
The moment you unbuckle it, it's done.
But when they're held, it's 3 turns.
That's enough time.
Long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can't subdue someone held in 3 turns, you have bigger issues.
Yeah, you're a wuss.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Just point out, because they were talking about spells before, they have an NPC character right below this, and it's the spells that they have listed that they use is Charm Person, Protection from Evil, Shield, Invisibility, Levitate, Web, Haste, Suggestion, Confusion, Dig, Remove Curse. Disintegrate, which I don't know, that's kind of questionable to me. Charm.
Disintegrate, really?
Yeah,
because
I don't know.
that's a basic. Is Disintegrate in First Edition AD&D?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
What
Oh,
level
yes.
is that?
6th.
Oh, that's why. Because I've never seen that spell. I don't have a magic user ever that high.
Well, this bad boy here is a 15th level magic user, 5th level illusionist.
Yeah. The illusion spells I agree with. Change Self, Detect Illusion Light, Misdirection, Ventriloquism, and Paralyzation. I agree with all those. Disintegrate's the one thing that probably... and maybe Teleport, too.
I could see Disintegrate just because it shows a kind of a lack of control. You're not going to be able to finesse a Disintegrate spell. It's either all or nothing. And I could see the magic in this world, if you channel something that powerful, it's just going to disintegrate everything. It's not going to just strategically take out like the single person.
Well, this is the biggest fail of it so far. The 7th level spell that this NPC has is called Mordenkainen's Sword. So
they did open that portal I talking about.
Whoops. That must be a typo.
But you see what I'm saying? You're not going. This is what I'm saying. You're going to fail in trying to get AD&D into a Hyborian Age world. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, what about those? Yeah, what about Tasha's uncontrollable hideous laughter? What about that? Or
I disagree with you, Will.
Ledman's tiny hut.
Oh,
Ledman's tiny hut.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would disagree with you. I think this could be done successfully in a campaign, and I will run a campaign with you in it just to prove it.
We get to use the spells out of the player's handbook?
Everything, yeah. From Forgotten Realms of Great... No, I'm just kidding. I have a set of rules for this, and if I could find them, I'll put them on the site. I don't know where the heck they are. I'm trying to think. They're a folder.
Well, like I said before, I think it can be done.
It can. I've done it.
Yeah, and it can be quite exciting. You just gotta remember what you're dealing with as far as the source material, and you have to be a little bit loose with it. You can't be strictly this is how it is in the novels, so this is how it's going to be here. You're going to have to be a little bit more loose.
Oh, yeah, you got to be open-minded on this, and you have to think outside the box. Like I said, if it's a Hyborian Age content, there's not going to be no Mordenkainen's Sword or no Tasha's uncontrollable hideous laughter and Everett's black tentacles or whatever else.
If they are there, they're just called something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like
sword.
I like how in some of the equipment, the armor is only banded plate and splint mail. That's all they have.
Yeah, right. And
that is correct. Yes,
I like that. You won't find anything better than really bronze plate mail armor.
Right.
As a matter of fact, that PDF that we was talking about, I found it online. I saved it.
Oh, good.
So we'll talk about it. But yeah, the equipment list. Oh yeah, it's very minimal. Very minimal. I mean, like plate mail, for example, is 1,500 gold, and it's extremely rare, very rare.
In fact, when I was kicking around the idea of doing this for a campaign, no plate mail at all. Nothing better than splint or banded mail.
Hey, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think there would be some mail, some chain mail.
Oh, chain mail?
Yeah.
Yes. Scale, ring mail, absolutely. Leather, hide armor. But I don't think you're going to find plate.
You can always run around naked. Conan did that half the time.
Oh, that's true.
Okay. Now, I was looking through real quickly the module, and the Nikita, the monster that Matt reviewed, the PCs actually find it in this module that we're looking at. They come across it. And it says, if the PCs attack the cloud, it suddenly begins darting about the area in an attempt to confuse the PCs. As the cloud moves, it shoots painful streams of electricity through its limbs at the PCs.
Ow! Pikachu!
Why was it worded like that? Painful streams of electricity? Is that supposed to be newt or maybe something else?
Oh.
You mean it's shooting painful streams at your testicles?
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, my Lord.
Yes, I was children. And I do have to say that, Will, you did point out there's a lot of good art in this module.
Yeah, the art is really impressive.
They really went out and went for this, especially on page 9. The picture of Sonya talking to the NPC wizard. Very good drawing. No nudity, but it's, close enough.
It's close though. I'll tell you, they was borderline.
This is a module you should pick up for your collection.
Yes, if you can find it. I can't even imagine how much it cost.
$50 on Amazon.
Woo! Ouch.
That's for a used copy.
Now, kind of like, I guess some my own personal thoughts on this module and I guess with the AD&D rules.
Actually,
as a whole.
Before you start that, Nick, let's head over into the out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here I am getting ahead of myself.
We'll be right back. Okay, and this is probably going to bring a closing to the show where we leave our last final thoughts. And Nick, you were starting off the last segment.
Yeah, sorry, I got ahead of myself. I apologize out there. But I think this kind of brings up a question on, the influences that were put into AD&D and to D&D as a whole. I mean, it's when you read through Appendix N, you can see the list of all the different authors and stories that influenced the game. What Gary Gygax thought is inspirational. One of them was Robert E. Howard.
Yes.
Now, keep this in mind. There was a lot of other stuff. There was Fritz Leiber. There was Tolkien. There's a slew of others. Lovecraft. I mean, little bits and pieces that he liked influenced his idea of what D&D was going to be. It's a mishmash. It's a mishmash of all those types of concepts and ideas from all those fantasy authors. Now, when you want to try to just focus on one of those things, like in this case with the Hyborian Age, it's not initially on the surface easy to do. As far as like, I want to make a Hyborian Age campaign, or I want to do a Middle Earth thing with the D&D rules. On the surface, it's kind of difficult when you're first looking at it. But if you give it some considerable thought, it can be done. And Vince, you said you did run a successful campaign in a Hyborian Age using AD&D.
Yeah.
So, it can be done. I think we actually outlined some pretty good ideas in this show that it can be done. I mean, you don't have to be strict by the book. Robert E. Howard, it has to be just like that in the stories. You got to run it a little loose. So, at least that's my personal take on it. I think it could be done, and I think it'd be a rather interesting change for players and DMs.
Okay. Anyone else have any final thoughts?
Good luck.
Yeah.
I get the idea that you're not too hip to the idea.
It's possible. It just requires a lot of work and a lot of forethought as to what to include and what not to. Because really anything is possible. You could just play just about any type of game with the bare mechanics of AD&D.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean one works that well.
Right.
But it can be done.
Right. I mean, you could say just the opposite if we were talking about running AD&D, but strictly like Middle Earth. I think you would run into similar issues.
You guys are killing me. I can't stop laughing about it. No, I agree.
You're all wrong. Can't work. No way.
No. I'm not saying you're all wrong. No, I do agree with you. I think that if you're going to try and run a Hyborian Age game with AD&D rules, it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of work. And my only advice, like I said, pick up the Mongoose Publishing Conan RPG and start use that as your base, and then you can start putting in, the AD&D elements to make it, feel more comfortable. But like I said, it's a very difficult setting to customize for AD&D. Right.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about it. It can be a bit difficult because you're going to have to weed through a lot of stuff in the original rule set that you might not be able to use, and we've highlighted that. Another book I didn't know if we caught it on air, but I also mentioned GURPS Conan.
Yes.
If you could find it, good luck. I think the PDF might still be available. on Warehouse 23 through Steve Jackson Games. I have a copy of it. I was lucky to come across it a long time ago. It's a wonderful reference. If you want to do this, I highly recommend getting that. Also, the Mongoose Publishing stuff. And I know that there's various, and obviously the source material itself is really good. So there you have it. By Crom.
And there's tons of resources online. I'm looking at right now the Hyborian HD20 website here. It's hyboria.xoth.net. It's done. I'm not sure who did it. I'm trying to figure out who did this.
Which one is this?
It's a Hyborian Age campaign for D20 adventures. Someone made up all these rules.
Yeah, I found that a while too. I used that for some of my inspiration for the game I was thinking of running. Some of that could be easily ported in the HD first edition.
The person does a gazetteer. They do adventures. They have a blog talking about it, and every once in a while they put up ideas. So it might be something to mine once in a while just to look at. Mm-hmm. And just stop by there. Just steal ideas. Why not? He has his own forums. They don't work. Just a mailing list. But it's something to look into.
Yeah.
I agree.
I think that's going to end everything for this week. And I'm going to say keep it original, keep it old school, and good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Bye, Crom.
It's Chopper now.
Good night and good luck.
Roll for initiative.